Hello and welcome to the Intentional Brief, your weekly video update on the one big thing in cybersecurity news for middle market companies, their investors, and management teams. I'm your host, Shay Colson, managing partner at Intentional Cybersecurity, and you can find us online at intentionalcyber.com. Today is Monday, September 15th, 2025, and we have yet another update from the ransomware landscape, as well as some new data detailing the breach of Salesforce's Salesloft tool, which has impacted dozens of high-profile customers both here in the U.S. and abroad. We will start this week with a note from the Lockbit ransomware group indicating that Lockbit, Quillen, and DragonForce ransomware groups are now all joining forces in what they call both a coalition and a cartel in the post. As a reminder, these groups have accounted for more than 3,000 ransomware victims in the past few years, spread somewhat evenly between Quillen and DragonForce, with Lockbit obviously leading the way as the larger brand, making a potentially formidable group, or at least a knowledge-sharing organization. As we're fond of noting here on this channel, we don't base our defenses on the TTPs of attackers specifically, but there's no doubt that these threat actor groups are reshaping themselves in order to become more effective. We've talked previously about the combination of scattered lapsus hunters and that pairing, and we were somewhat surprised to see them announce on Friday last week that they're shutting down. Given their recent high-profile attack, quite successful it would seem, on British automaker Jaguar Land Rover, color us skeptical about this shutdown notice. We're also skeptical because the fallout from another one of their attacks, this one on the Salesloft platform, seems to have been both so sophisticated and so successful. For those who missed it, there's a good technical write-up at databreaches.net outlining how this hack came to be. I want to also give the latest from the Salesloft Drift team and a little bit of credit to them for sharing the results of the investigation they had Mandiant come in and run on their trust portal. In short, that attack happened like this. In March through June of 2025, the threat actor accessed the Salesloft GitHub account. With this access, the threat actor was able to download content from multiple repos, add a guest user, and establish workflows. I will note here that it is not clear how they got access to GitHub initially, so a little bit of a grain of salt. 2. The threat actor then accessed Drift's AWS environment and obtained OAuth tokens for Drift customers' technology integrations. Then the third step, the threat actor used those stolen OAuth tokens to access data via Drift integrations and then export it and hold them for ransom. So the challenge for us is that third-party risk remains a really difficult thing to defend against, and the part that's worth noting here is that the actual exfiltration path using those stolen OAuth tokens wouldn't give us very much chance to catch this. What this means is that the access to the platforms where the data lives and the underlying data itself would have all looked valid. That access would have come with an active token, would have come in via an API call, all of which are regularly used to move large volumes of data. It's also going to move data in and out of the tenant in a way that's not necessarily visible to us as the data owner. So if you're using this platform or any other API integrated product for that matter, you're not typically going to have access to the underlying platform's logs or the API logs that could indicate some anomalous or potentially malicious activity. In many cases, modern application platforms themselves lack this data or the ability to regularly review it. So like we always do on this channel, I'd like to look a little bit about what we can do better to defend against this type of threat. And as a reminder, Salesloft has all the certifications you'd expect or want them to see from a third-party risk management perspective. ISO 27001, a SOC 2 Type 2, etc. They would have looked really good on a third-party risk assessment questionnaire. We know that you're not going to be able to monitor your vendor's GitHub repos. We know you're not going to be able to see inside their AWS infrastructure or have access to those API logs. So what's left for us to do to manage this risk? There's really only two things that we can do at this point. First, develop and enforce strong contractual limitations, obligations, SLAs, etc. Yes, it's reactive. Yes, it's a fallback. Yes, it takes a long time to recoup from the damages in these instances. I get that, but we really don't have very many moves left on the board in these sort of situations. 2, pivoting control a little bit back to us, strong key and secret management. Be willing to rotate keys at the slightest hint of a possibility of an issue. It is not convenient, it is not easy, it has business impacts, I get all of that, but if your keys and secrets, like OAuth tokens, are going to be rotated in the event of a compromise or might have been compromised at all, why not rotate them as soon as possible? It is a good muscle to start building, as is an understanding of the API integrations across your environment. You can't rotate what you don't know about, but really, those are the two best options that we've got, even if they're somewhat limited and suboptimal, even if they're entirely reactive. I get that, but sometimes it just comes down to doing the best we can with what we've got. From a fundraising perspective, we noted more than $23 billion in newly committed capital last week, led by Veritas Capital, who put up $14.4 billion in their ninth flagship fund focused on companies at the intersection of tech and government. We will see if this fundraising trend continues this week, and we also have a couple IPOs that we're keeping our eye on. And speaking of the intersection of tech and government, we've seen some rumblings from the Trump administration about moving from quarterly filings for public companies to every 6 months, which may make the IPO move more attractive or at least seem less daunting/burdensome. So we'll see if that unlocks some more IPOs moving forward. As a reminder, you can find links to all of the articles we covered in the comment section below. You can find back issues of these videos and the written transcripts at intentionalcyber.com. And we will see you next week for another edition of the Intentional Brief.